Hi guys, it's me again, Sir Ace, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So for today's video, we are going to talk about the properties of multiplication. So this is also one of the most important lessons that you should know together with the properties of addition. So if you don't know yet what the property of addition is, you can see the videos on my channel because that is also important. So to begin with the first property, let us have. So the first property of multiplication is the closure property. So in this property of multiplication, it states that the product of any two rational numbers is also a rational number. So let us have an example so that you will easily understand the property. So suppose that we have 2, which is a rational number, and then you multiplied it to another rational number, which is 1. So if you multiply 2 times 1, or if you multiply 2 by 1, the product is 2. And 2 is a rational number. So the product of any two rational numbers is also a rational number. So that is closure property of multiplication. So let us proceed to the next property. So the next property is the commutative property of multiplication. So in this property, states that changing the position of the factors does not affect the product. So kahit balik-baliktarin nyo man the factors, kung baliktarin nyo yung factors or not, you will always result to the same answer. So let us have this example. So suppose that we have 3 times 4. So these are the factors, 3 and 4. So if you are going to multiply 3 and 4, so that is 12. In the property, it states that if you change the position of these two factors, the product will be the same. So let us see. Let's change the position of your factors. 4 times 3, 4 times 3 is also 12. So changing the position of the factors does not affect the product. So as simple as that. Okay, so moving on with the third property is we have the associative property of multiplication. So associative property of multiplication states that changing the groupings of the numbers does not affect the product. So let us have this example. Okay, so suppose that we have this example, 2 times 3 times 4. So let us try to group this. So if we are going to multiply 2 times 3, this is 6. Then bring down times 4. So 6 times 4 is 24. So let us now apply the property. Let us try to see if that is really true. 2 times 3 times 4. So let us change now the groupings. So from 2 times 3, which is group a while ago, this time let us group these numbers, 3 and 4. So let us bring down 2. 3 times 4 is 12. And 2 times 12 is also 24. So even if we change the groupings of our number, it does not affect the product. They are just the same. And that is associative property of multiplication. So moving on to the next property. Okay, so the next property is identity property of for multiplication. So in this property, it states that the product of a number and 1 is the number itself. So whatever number is being multiplied to 1, the answer will be the number itself. And that is identity property for multiplication. So let us have an example. So 2 times 1 is 2, 3 times 1 is 3, 4 times 1 is 4. So you will notice here that any numbers when multiplied by 1, the answer will always be the number itself. Even 1, if we try to multiply 1 times 1, the answer will be 1 itself. So, and that is identity property of for multiplication. So any number multiplied by 1 is the number itself. Okay, so next is the multiplicative inverse. But before we proceed with the property of multiplicative inverse, let me first discuss with you what a multiplicative inverse is. Like for example, we have number 1. So we have this one. And you were asked to find the multiplicative inverse of 1. So the multiplicative inverse of 1 is also 1. Okay, so for more example, multiplicative inverse of 2. So the multiplicative inverse of 2 is 1 over 2. Why? It's simply getting the reciprocal of the number. Getting the reciprocal of a number. So like for example, we have 3. And we all know that 3 has a denominator which is 1. So if you're going to get the multiplicative inverse of 3 over 1 or 3, that is 1 over 3. The same as in 2. So 2 also have denominator of 1. So if you are going to change, you're just simply change the position of the numerator and the denominator. So that will be 1 over 2. And also 1. So 1 over 1. So the multiplicative inverse is 1 over 1 or 1. Yeah. So that is multiplicative inverse. So since we're dealing with the property, let us have property. The multiplicative inverse property. So in this property, it states that the product of a non-zero number and its multiplicative inverse is 1. The product of any non-zero, that is not 0, any number except 0. And its multiplicative inverse is always 1. So let us have an example. Okay, so suppose that we have this number 2. So let us try to get its multiplicative inverse. So the multiplicative inverse of 1 over 2 is 1 over 2. And from the property, it states that getting its product, if we get the product of these two, the answer will be 1. So this is 2 times 1 over 2. And we all know that any whole number, there is always a denominator which is 1. So if you are going to multiply that, numerator to numerator, denominator to denominator, 2 times 1 is 2, and 1 times 2 is 2. 2 over 2 is simply 1. Simply 1. So 2 over 2 is 1. Another example. 6. What is the multiplicative inverse of 6? It's 1 over 6. And if we are going to multiply this 2, so this will be 6 times 1 over 6. So if we are going to multiply that, so this is 6 times 1 is 6, and 1 times 6 is 6, or simply 1. It is always 1. The product of a number or a non-zero number and its multiplicative inverse is always 1. So that is multiplicative inverse property. So let us now proceed to the last property of multiplication, which is the distributive property of multiplication over addition or subtraction. So we have this property. So it states that multiplying a sum or a difference by a number also gives the same results as multiplying each addends or term by a number and then add or subtract the products together. So let us have an example so that you can fully understand the property. Okay, so let us have this example. So suppose that we have 2 times the quantity of 1 plus 2 and let us use the distributive property of multiplication of over addition or subtraction. So since this is what inside the parenthesis, we use the operation addition. So it's basically distributive property of multiplication over addition, since that is addition. If this is subtraction, then over subtraction. So anyway, let us try to prove if the property is really true. So based from the property states that if we multiply a number to the sum or a difference of this one, or since this is addition, it's technically it's the sum. So if we try to multiply this number to the sum of these numbers, the result will be the same as if we multiply this number to this number and also this number to the next number. So let us see. If we are going to use the first statement, which is multiplying a number by the sum or the difference of a number. So this will be 2 times, let us get the sum. So this is 3. 2 times 3 is definitely 6. And if we are going to use the other statement that was mentioned in our property, like if we multiply this number to this and also to this, will also give us the same result as the first statement. So let us try. So 2 times 1 is 2. Since this is addition, this will be plus. 2 times 2 is definitely 4. And 2 plus 4 is 6. And it gives us the same result, which is 6. So another. Let us now have distributive property of multiplication over subtraction. So let's have 3 times 4 minus 3. Let us have 3 times the quantity of 4 minus 3. So the first one is, let us get first the difference of the numbers inside the parentheses. So this will be 3 times 4 minus 3 is 1. And 3 times 1 is 3. So let us now use the other statement. So this is 3 times 4 minus 3. Let us try to multiply the number outside to all the numbers inside. So this is 3 times 4 is 12. So since this is subtraction, let us have subtraction as the operation. 3 times 3 is 9. And 12 minus 9 is also 3. They are just the same. Okay? And there you have it, guys. That ends our video about the properties of multiplication. So I hope you learned something from this video. And if you think this video is really helpful, kindly click the share button so that your friends and others will also learn from this video. So that's all. Thank you. Goodbye. God bless.